security men is attack on all.
24 hours after the burial of slain 12 soldiers, Governor Tom summons security meeting.
We had a lot of deliberations and very useful suggestions from all the states, and then with a request for interventions and collaboration.
Nigerian governors pushing for brighter economy for their states, secure great prospects in France.
We make it to the final. It's not an easy game.
Defending champions Team Delta still on the lead as Edo 2020 ends tomorrow. Hello, good evening and welcome to NTA Network News. I'm Joseph Johnson. Hinguno John Adams joins me from Lagos. Let's begin with security matters because the Benue State Security Council has met with community leaders of Konshisha local government area to ascertain the cause of the recent mayhem unleashed in the community. Governor Samuel Otom, who chaired the meeting, says the council condemned in strong terms the killing of 12 soldiers. Charles Abba reports.
From condemning the killing of 12 soldiers in the recent attack on the military in Konshisha, Governor Samuel Otom explained that other resolutions of the council included confirmation that militia men were responsible for the killing of soldiers deployed to keep peace between Konshisha and Ojuloko government areas, expression of condolences to President Muhammadu Buhari, Chief of Army Staff and families of the deceased soldiers, confirmation of death of 6 persons, including 2 militia members in the communities, as against the 8 earlier reported, that all those involved in the killing of the soldiers be arrested and prosecuted, and that traditional rulers and other stakeholders should ensure that all weapons taken from the soldiers be returned unconditionally.
To end the lingering crisis between Oju and Konshisha, the meeting resolved that the demarcation of the boundary between the 2 local government areas be carried out as soon as possible.
The governor further stated that the council appreciated the military for accepting the plea of the state government not to aggravate the situation in Konshisha. The meeting advised stakeholders to desist from making inflammatory statements and allow government and security agencies to handle the matter. The governor added that as soon as the arms are returned, the State Security Council would review the situation. In Makudi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the slain 12 soldiers in Benue State were buried yesterday at the military cemetery Wurumkum Makudi. Blessing Omeche Ebute reports that Governor Samuel Otom was also in attendance and promised to assist security agencies in fishing out the perpetrators of the attack.
The governor, who condemned the attack, condoled with President Muhammadu Buhari as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the Nigerian Army, and families of the deceased for the loss, describing the attack as unfortunate.
I want to assure the Nigerian Army, the families, and in fact Nigerians, that attack on security men is attack on all. I equally want to apologize to the families of the bereaved. As at that time that I made those comments of 2 soldiers, it was the information available to me.
In their separate messages, the chaplain and imam of 72 Special Forces Battalion, who sued for peace in the land, say the fallen soldiers lived sacrificial lives protecting the territorial integrity of the country. The bodies were later laid to rest after a 21-gun salute in their honor. In Makudi, Blessing Omeche Ebute, NTA News.
In another development, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru, has reiterated the commitment of the armed forces to improve security situation across the country. During an appearance before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating the purchase of arms and ammunition by the armed forces from 2010 to date, the Army Chief forwarded documents requested to aid the investigation.
I believe we'll continue to remain partners in progress. We'll continue to work for the Nigerian people.
The committee will, in the next 4 weeks, study the contents, after which it hopes to have another engagement with the Army Chief. The Nigeria Police also appeared at Monday's sitting, but deliberations were shifted to a later date to enable the appearance of the Inspector General. In the meantime, the quest to stabilize Nigeria's economy is compelling governors at sub-national levels to broker greater trade deals with the French government for enhanced economic and security benefits of the two countries. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that the development is being fashioned along bilateral supports in the areas of investment growth and capital infrastructure.
French and Nigerian governments have built a strong bilateral ties in advancing the economic and political interests of the two countries for decades. This is visible in the investment profile of French government in Nigeria, amounting to more than $4.5 billion in 2019, with a sharp decline by about 50% in 2020, owing to COVID-19. Now the French government is committing about 4 billion euro to assist in the growth of small and medium-scale enterprises, with Nigeria as a major beneficiary.
We have many companies that are settled here because we want a win-win partnership between our two countries. We have 100 companies that are settled here, representing 10,000 people working in these companies. And so we want really to increase our investment in Nigeria.
We had a lot of deliberations and very useful suggestions from all the states, and then with a request for interventions and collaboration.
Apart from Nigeria being the first country in sub-Saharan Africa for French direct investment initiative, the country is also to enjoy robust security support to stabilize the country. On the industrial action by Jusun and Passan, chairman of the Northern Governors Forum, Samuel Alon, says efforts are on to reach an agreement with the union leaders. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
A 33-member technical working group has been inaugurated by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, to ensure effective implementation of the federal government alternative school program. Ruth Aguele reports.
Sitting for the third time, inaugurating 33 members but one agenda. These are members of the technical working group that will serve as a clearinghouse for the proper functioning of the National Steering Committee to ensure full implementation of the federal government's alternate school program for out-of-school children.
Through this program, every child, irrespective of social, cultural, and economic standing, can gain access to quality education using the federal government's social investment programs. It will also equip the children with lifelong skills to enable them in the future contribute meaningfully to the Nigerian economy, provide some household income for their respective families, and create employment for members of the local community, thus improving their local economy.
On behalf of the committee, we thank you for this assignment, and we will do everything to ensure that we deliver on time and effectively.
There are expectations from the technical working group to develop a strategic framework, design a stakeholder mapping strategy, consultative and planning process, and ensure monitoring, evaluation, and impact assessment to see the alternate school program come alive. In Abuja, Ruth Aguele, NTA News.
Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Adeni Adebayo says building critical national infrastructure is a sure way for Nigeria to maximize her market share in the African continental market. The minister said this during a facility tour of the new ultra-modern 12-story building by the Industrial Training Fund, ITF, located in Abuja. Muplang Dakok reports.
An enthused Director General of the ITF, Joseph Ari, explaining to the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Richard Adeniyi Adebayo, the structure and proposed use of the new office. An equally excited Minister of Trade acknowledged the Director General for his approach, with the project already impacting on the economy by providing direct and indirect jobs. Adebayo promised to support the ITF to ensure that President Muhammadu Buhari's drive for growing and improving the economy through training and capacity building is achieved.
Right now it's already impacting on the economy because the money that is coming into building this place is going to flow back into the economy, which will begin to have its own effect. But I believe that it's a very good job.
This job is up on about 75% completion stage. We have it's an office building. Each floor is about 2,000 square meters. It's a very big project, and it's a 12-floor building.
Joseph Ari, who led the tour of the building complex after the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment's first quarterly meeting, explained that the building will serve as a policy-making and training center committed to boosting trade and investment. In Abuja, Muplang Dakok, NTA News.
Now, after staying for complete 3 years without light, the people of Bama Olokoro in Umaya South local government area of Abia State are singing the praise of the federal government for a 300 kVA transformer, which has brought electricity to them towards improving their standard of living. The member representing Ikukona, Umahia North and South Federal Constituency at the National Assembly, Sam Onigbo, presented the transformer at a ceremony attended by the traditional ruler and the people. Jude Ibiora reports.
For a child who is 3 years old in Abama Olokoro and less, one thing is for sure, that they are seeing electricity light for the first time in their lives. As for the adults, one can only imagine what life has been like. It was therefore a momentous day for them, and their joy knew no bound as their prayers were answered, courtesy of the member representing Ikwano, Umahia North and South Federal Constituency as the National Assembly, Sam Onigbo, who presented them a 300 kVA transformer. Anywhere there is light, there is progress. We were also appealing for these roads that lead to your hometown and Akwa Ibom State. What we are seeing is quality representation, irrespective of the party they come from.
We have never had it so good, Alabama.
Representative Sam Onigbo promised to continue his effective and responsive representation.
That I will be accessible to the people who have used the power of their tongue to lift me to the House of Representatives.
Representative Onigbo had also presented his people with water project, solar-powered street lights, a block of 3 classrooms at Nsirimo Central School, as well as another 300 kVA transformer, all within his constituency. In Omahia, Jude Obiora, NTA News.
Time to take some messages. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. To strengthen healthcare provision, build resilience of health system and healthcare facilities to provide acceptable standard of medical care in coronavirus pandemic, the United Nations government of Japan, in collaboration with Borno State government, have launched a project to scale up oxygen supply and vaccine storage in Borno. Haman Jabani reports.
COVID-19 has posed high pressure on health system, with hospital running out of medical oxygen resulting in preventable deaths in Borno State. Because of this, there is increased and urgent demand for affordable and sustainable access to medical oxygen for the treatment of patients. The UN project is expected to directly benefit 7.1 million people within the 26 local government areas of the state, and it will be constructed and equipped within the premises of the State Specialist Hospital Maiduguri and Big General Hospital with a budget of $2.3 million for 1 year.
With support from the government of Japan, the project will fill a critical gap in treatment of respiratory illnesses by building oxygen systems in Borno State. The project will strengthen clinical outcomes for people, particularly including women and children, suffering from severe pneumonia and other respiratory diseases.
The project also complements the UN Nigeria's COVID-19 emergency response for displaced and most vulnerable in northeast Nigeria that was announced and launched in March 2020, where the UN is taking emergency preparedness and response measures to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 to the most vulnerable crisis-affected areas in Borno.
9 hospitals and 139 primary healthcare centers will benefit under the project and is expected to serve as a sustainable management option paper to guide decision-making for long-term operation of the oxygen plant. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
In line with its determination to ensure accountability and transparency in the deployment and administration of COVID-19 vaccine in Nigeria, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency is partnering with the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC. The collaboration will ensure all appropriate anti-corruption accountability and transparency measures are established and sustained throughout the 4 phases of the COVID-19 vaccination campaigns. The ICPC will track and monitor the deployment and use of COVID-19 vaccines across the country with a focus on 4 critical areas of theft and embezzlement, service provision, vaccine availability and advisory. The Executive Director, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shoaib, therefore assures the public that those with intentions of perpetrating any unlawful acts in this regard, such as extortion, diversion of vaccines and funds meant for the vaccination exercise, will be apprehended and made to face the full wrath of the law. The general public is therefore encouraged to report any act of corruption in the vaccination process to the agency or ICPC. Islamic organizations will leverage on the Ramadan Tafsir holding annually to complement government's efforts to allay the fears of some Muslims who have misgivings on taking COVID-19 vaccination in the fight against the effects of the disease. This is coming from Ansaruddin Society of Nigeria on this year's Ramadan on one hand, and the refusal of some faithful to bring themselves forward for vaccination against the coronavirus pandemic on the other hand.
The vaccination has become controversial in many public domains as to suspicion of ulterior motives and its antecedents, as well as the possibility of side effects which people fear. This is why we want our elder sheikh, who will deal justly with the topic, so as to allay the fears of our general public.
Tafsir is the reading, translation and commentary of the only Quran that mostly takes place during the month of Ramadan. The General Overseer of Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, has asked Nigerians to work for the progress of the country and pay more attention to issues that unite the people rather than divisive tendencies. The religious leader was speaking in Kaduna when he led some members of the church on a visit to the Kaduna State Governor, Nasiru El-Rufai. Mohammed Omar Ajingi reports.
It is Pastor Adeboye's first formal meeting with the Kaduna State Executive Council members, leading a special prayer for Nigeria to overcome her current challenges. The General Overseer Redeemed Church of God acknowledges the bold initiatives of Kaduna State government in tackling emerging threats to peace and stability.
I know how you definitely must be feeling, particularly when they kidnap this fellow, kidnap that fellow, particularly when they begin to kidnap school children. But I want to assure you, sir, victory is around the corner. The Almighty God is going to fight for you. Amen. It's going to fight for Kaduna State. Amen. It's going to fight for Nigeria.
Amen. The situation in Kaduna State and in many parts of Nigeria are of such seriousness that they are beyond the capacity of any human being alone to solve. This country needs divine intervention more than at any time in its history. So we're grateful for your prayers. We're grateful for your blessings.
The meeting has renewed hope of the government and people of Kaduna State in divine intervention to the challenges confronting the state. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
Speaker House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila has assured Forum of the National Assembly legislative aides that their demands as relates to unpaid benefits will be looked into. He stated this while addressing the aides who staged a peaceful protest. Dayo Ogunshola reports.
Converging on the lobby of the National Assembly to stage the protest, the legislative aides demanded, among other things, payment of their salary arrears from 2019, payment of routine duty tour allowance, and implementation of the national minimum wage.
If the aides are not trained, the quality of legislation that you have here is definitely going to be zero. And I say without fear and favor that any legislator who is vibrant, you look at the back and you look at the caliber of his own aides, they must have been properly trained.
In your kindness, Mr. Speaker, you would give the directive that these areas that are about 2 years old, 20 months old, are cleared.
So we will make sure that this matter is resolved amicably and your payments or your arrears are paid. Okay? We appreciate you. We appreciate your peaceful, bringing this peacefully to our attention.
The aides say they will sustain the sensitization and campaign to ensure everything needed to ease their condition of service is addressed. From the National Assembly, Dayo Ogunshola, NTA News.
Let's now join Hinguno in our Lagos Network Center for some reports. Hinguno.
Thank you, Joseph. Sequel to his appointment by President Muhammadu Buhari, the new Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Isiaka Amao, visited the Nigerian Air Force Logistics Command in Lagos as part of his maiden tour of formations. Imolia Itukede Ogunfowora has details.
Having been received by personnel and members of the Nigerian Air Force Officers' Wives Association, Air Marshal Isiaka Amo's operational visit to the command was to have on-the-spot assessment of the infrastructure at the base. It took a tour of the aircraft maintenance depot, logistics, medical and engineering formations, as well as the hostel to know the areas in need of support and intervention. A facility which will soon be converted to poultry and fisheries was also visited. With the new Chief of Air Staff on board, new method of appreciation will be introduced to motivate the Nigerian Air Force officers and promote diligence in the discharge of their duties. It is also expected that through combined operations by the members of the armed forces, the nation will be able to overcome its security challenges. In Lagos, Imolia Itukede Ogunfowora, NTA News.
Now, statistics extracted from the records of the Apapa Command of the Nigeria Customs Service shows that goods worth 42 billion naira were exported within the first quarter of the year. This is good news, as this figure is an indication that the command is winning the anti-smuggling war. This assertion, as given by the controller, Yusuf Malanta Ibrahim, explained that business owners now understand the importance of adhering to legitimate process in trade facilitation. Michael Olale reports.
Laying waiting within this terminal are containers with questionable contents, but the customs in keeping tab on smuggling activities identified 28 for contravening various import and excise duty laws in the first quarter of the year. This container, for instance, is loaded with medicated soaps, but falsely declared as baking powder. It is a deliberate attempt by the importers to escape confiscation since the content falls under contraband. The importer of another container took concealment to a new level when drugs like tramadol were packed with change of identity to deceive unsuspecting law enforcement agents. But the customs ahead of smugglers in the deception game intercepted the items.
Different kind of drugs, and they are all unregistered pharmaceutical drugs. My advice to the fellow citizens is that please and please be compliant with government policies. Government is not making this policy for its own, it is making it for the own citizen. And we are tracing this kind of importer to the end through the system and see whether he has other containers also.
The anti-smuggling drive of the Apapa Command no doubt is paying off, as revenue posted for the first quarter of the year shows a 44% increase when compared to 2020.
Cough syrup with codeine.
We have been trailing this since September of last year, 2020. And we were able to intercept it only, I think, 23rd of March of this year.
Apart from generating 159 billion naira in the first quarter of the year, the duty paid value of seized items were 1.8 billion naira. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NTA News.
We'll now take some messages. The news continues shortly.
Thanks for staying with us. We're back here in Abuja, and of course, let's head straight to Talking Business. And here is Benny Adams. Benny.
Thank you, Joseph, and welcome to the business side of life. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Adeni Adebayo has called for the establishment of Nigeria-France Business Council to enhance trade relations between the two countries. He explained that the council, which would be private sector driven, would perform the statutory role of coordinating and promoting an enabling business environment that would spur economic growth. The minister, who was addressing a group of French investors led by Minister for Foreign Trade and Attractiveness, Frank Riester, called on French companies to take advantage of the nation's teeming youth to invest in software manufacturing in the country. OPEC has raised its forecast for oil demand growth this year to take into consideration a stronger economic recovery than previous projections. OPEC's latest monthly oil market report puts global oil demand at 96.46 million barrels per day this year. This is up by $190,000 per barrel from its previous report and 5.95 million barrels per day higher than last year. This is because crude prices rose for the fifth consecutive month in March due to continuing supportive oil market fundamentals. The OPEC reference basket increased $3.51 or 5.7% month-on-month to average $64.54 per barrel, the highest on month-on-month terms since January 2020. Crude oil prices were higher in March, extending previous monthly gains. And back home, Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, has emphasized the need for stakeholders of financial sectors to keep abreast with strategies that will ensure financial inflows, better expenditure, and the ability to forecast the cash needs of the government. Ahmed Idris was speaking at the opening of a 3-day retreat on cash management in Nasarawa State.
Ensuring that sufficient cash is available to the government as and when needed to meet commitments to make payments. Controlling aggregate cash flows within fiscal, monetary, and legal limits. Improving the management of government domestic borrowing program, as well as facilitating investments of excess or idle cash. Upholding greater accountability for public expenditure, as well as supporting budget execution and efficient resource allocation.
And on the capital market, investors lose 57.95 billion naira as the NSE All-Share Index dips by 0.29% as sell pressure persists. The market closed at 38,601.83 basis points at the close of transactions today. That's business news. Joseph, is over to you.
Thanks, mate. The Minister of State for Petroleum, Timi Silva, says the National Gas Expansion Program is geared towards the implementation of federal government's commitment to taking 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. He stated this at the National Gas Expansion Program in Imo State, the second to be held in the Southeast Geopolitical Zone. Bright Abuja reports.
The federal government rolled out its National Gas Expansion Program in December 2020, which involves the conversion of well-powered cars and generators from petrol to gas. Minister of State for Petroleum, Timi Silva, while speaking at the National Gas Expansion Program in Owerri, says the initiative will promote the use of natural gas as a main energy source for sustained industrialization through the establishment of gas-based industries.
With proven gas reserves of over 200 trillion cubic feet of gas and upsides of 600 TCF, natural gas presents an opportunity for the nation to use gas as the catalyst for its socio-economic renaissance. Training that can bring our children to different areas of utility through this process, which means there is hope for employment for our future youth.
It is expected that as Nigerians key into the use of natural gas as alternative to fuel, the challenges confronting the nation as a result of the unpredictable nature associated with global oil prices will become a thing of the past. In Owerri, Bright Abuja, NTA News.
Nigerian government can now respond to sexual and gender-based violence from multi-sectoral views with technical and strategic inputs from different experts at diverse sectors. That is what the inauguration of the Strategic Knowledge Management National Technical Working Group at the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs means. Momso Demendati explains.
What we have on hand now is over 3,000 reported cases. But out of these over 3,000 reported cases, only 11 have been prosecuted. That is not acceptable. I appeal to the justice system to rise up to the occasion to ensure that no justice is delayed.
This is one of the many reasons that necessitated launch of a national strategic knowledge management technical working group.
Collate and effectively manage all GBV data in Nigeria.
It is expected not only to provide the highest level of coordination, monitoring and evaluation of programs and surveys on sexual and gender-based violence, but also ensure responsiveness to national indicators.
This is a very important instrument that will address a number of issues affecting women in Nigeria.
It is the first in the country aimed at using data and technology to inform and eliminate all forms of violence. The Minister of Women Affairs has also inaugurated a technical working committee to this effect. Momso Demendati, NTA News.
Poor funding, inadequate infrastructure and obsolete equipment have been listed as impediments to optimal performance of the Nigeria Police Force. Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund, Ahmad Aliyu, who disclosed this at the force headquarters while on a visit, assures the acting IGP of willingness to work together to address the challenges.
This is the first meeting between the Acting Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba Al-Khali, and the Executive Secretary of the Police Trust Fund. Discussions here is on how to address the challenges affecting the force.
I want to assure you, we are at your service and always ready to work with you for the common good of the Nigerian police and the nation as a whole.
We will be coming cap in hand to request you to provide us with funds so that we go on training and retraining. If you go into our barracks, they require urgent attention in terms of renovation. From time to time, we will give you our requirement based on what we need most, and we want you to help us in that respect.
The acting IGP says he looks forward to a mutual and beneficial collaboration with the Police Trust Fund. Francis from NTA News.
The Federal Road Safety Commission has approved the promotion of 1 Deputy Corps Marshal, 9 Assistant Corps Marshals and 26 Corps Commanders following the resolution of the Establishment Committee of FRSC on promotion of senior officers. The board chairman, Bukari Bello, stated that the promotion is part of the Commission's drive towards rewarding excellence, diligence and hard work, which is in line with the administrative philosophy of the present leadership of the Corps. He urged the officers to show more commitment and rededicate themselves to achieving the corporate mission of the Corps, which is to eradicate road traffic crashes and create a safer motoring environment in the country. Corps Marshal Boboyo Yeyemi equally reminded the officers that their new ranks call for more focus, more dedication, commitment and passion. A formal legislative assessment has been conducted by the National Assembly Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters with the intention of instituting necessary adjustments to the laws guiding the functions of the National Human Rights Commission. National Assembly correspondent Abdullahi Aminu reports.
Deliberations at the committee's sitting were on a bill to repeal and reenact the National Human Rights Commission Act 2004.
We are all very familiar with the issues at hand, and all we need to do is to be forthright in our presentations.
Is to, among other things, reposition and streamline the institutional framework of the Commission.
It is important for us to have a fund that will take care of these so many issues that are on ground.
The need to resolve and harmonize areas of differences with other existing laws was also brought to the fore.
Permit the denial of an application for any information, disclosure of which may be injurious to the defense of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
There are areas where due process under the law has to take place. There has to be an order of the court.
Absence of powers by the Commission's Governing Council, as well as provision of human rights funds and 1% levy, were the issues that some stakeholders said require further assessment. From the National Assembly, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
Let's go on a short break. Stay with us. Let's bring you sports now. Preparations for the closing ceremony ongoing as athletics conclude Wednesday with relays. Let's join Tamara Biwe for these and more on Edo 2020 Sports Update.
Barely 24 hours to the close of the National Sports Festival, athletes appraise themselves.
We make it to the final. It's not an easy game.
This year we have more medals. I know most of the states, they were able to pick something too.
I took first a gold medalist. I'm so grateful.
The young lady from Rivers, tell me by her name, from SNLA.
Para-athletes who are not left out, despite being confined to some areas of the stadium, say it is a great joy for them to compete as they call for more support and infrastructure to aid their disabilities.
We have other events that we are supposed to watch now, which is the long jump, and then it's too far for us because we cannot access the place.
Outdoor events of volleyball have been concluded. Ondo State won gold after garnering 12 points from 5 matches. In the women's volleyball final, Edo State outscored Lagos yet again 3-1, 25-16, 25-16, 22-25, and 25-10 to win gold. In weightlifting, 4 weightlifters have won more than 2 gold medals in the men and women's event. Morufat Folarin of Delta State, Emmanuel Appa of Niger State, Umofia Edidong of Akwa Ibom State, and Delta State's Joy Eze, all in snatch, clean and jerk. On the overall medal table, Delta remained top with 257 medals. Edo trailed with 241 medals. Adamawa lead the bottom 7 with 1 silver and 1 bronze. Kogi, Sokoto, Benue, Kebbi, Jigawa and Taraba states complete the bottom 7. With Edo 2020 Sports Update, Tamara Ebiwe, NTA News.
And let's bring you more sports with Olumide Eguntala.
Nigeria's only individual Olympic gold medalist, Chioma Ajunwa, says as part of activities to celebrate her Silver Jubilee Olympic gold medal won at Atlanta 1996, she will focus more on talent discovery programs to harness young talent in athletics, football, and taekwondo. She maintained that the young athletes with potentials will be calmed and groomed to become future stars. In volleyball, another chapter of a drive to popularize and develop the game of volleyball by the leadership of the Nigerian Volleyball Federation, Musa Nimrod, has been opened as the president presented and distributed 24 nets to 24 states and 111 latest balls to all the 36 states and Abuja. Presenting the equipment to the representatives of the Nigeria Directors of Sport, Musa Nimrod said the action is to further develop the game at the grassroots, advising the zonal representative on the board to replicate it at the various constituencies.
Here you have even the V200W latest Mikasa balls. But I want to advise each state, relying on the federation, either the president will not help us.
In football, action continues on Wednesday in the UEFA Champions League as Borussia Dortmund welcomes Manchester City with 1-2 goals deficit. Same for Liverpool that will trade tackles with Real Madrid with 1-3 goals disadvantage. With sports update, Olumide Eguntala, NTA News.
The two chambers of the National Assembly reconvened plenary Tuesday after the Easter break. But, as is the tradition, legislative business was suspended to honor two members of the House of Representatives who died during the break. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
Maitala, member representing Jos North Bassa Federal Constituency of Plateau State, died 9 days into the Easter break in a motor accident. 4 days after came the announcement of the death of another House member, Suleiman Aliu, representing Lere Federal Constituency of Kaduna State after a brief illness. The loss of the two lawmakers, says the House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, was shocking.
Both very painful.
Bear this very serious loss. And
in honor of the two members of the House of Representatives who died during the Easter break. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, has condoled with the people of Adamawa State over the passing of their illustrious son, Dr. Mahmood Tukur, a pioneer Vice-Chancellor of Bayero University, Kano, described as a nationalist whose devotion to duty and relentlessness were worthy of emulation. The SGF noted the late Dr. Tukur was appointed Minister of Commerce and Industry. He will be remembered for his patriotism. The SGF prays for comfort and strength for those he left behind and eternal rest. Pa Christopher Chukwuemeka Udegu, aka Okiso, has passed on at the age of 90. A wake-keep in honor of late Pa Christopher Udegu is to take place at his residence in Obiofia village, Osumei Newi South local government area of Anambra State on Wednesday, 14th of April, lying in state at his residence by 8 a.m. on Thursday, the 15th of April, while church service is by 10 a.m. at Holy Family Catholic Church, Osumei, while interment will take place at the family compound. Outing and Thanksgiving is by 8 a.m. He is survived by sisters, children, including Engineer Mike Udeogu, Chief Engineer with NTA Headquarters, Abuja, other grand and great-grandchildren. Also, the death has been announced of Otumba Mrs. Florence Yemi Oshinubi, aged 76, a lying in state for the late Mrs. Oshinobi is scheduled for 2 o'clock in the afternoon, while a wake-keep in her honor is to take place at her residence along Tabora Road, Ogere Remo, Ogun State by 5 p.m. Funeral and Thanksgiving service will take place at Christ Anglican Church, Ogere Remo by 11 a.m. The late Otumba Mrs. Florence Oshinobi is survived by her husband, children, including Assistant Manager News of NTA Headquarters, Abuja, Omotola Omojola, and other grandchildren. Well, let's bring you the weather prospects now.
Hi there. We observe a small plume of dust raised in the early hours of Sunday, which by Monday morning, we expect this dust to affect parts of Kano, Katsina, and Zamfara State. The rest of the northern cities should be mainly sunny. For the afternoon, we expect some chances of strong winds accompanied with rains and thunder over southern Taraba and southern Kaduna. Our indices shows prospect of isolated thunderstorms over Jos, Nasarawa, Abuja, including the coastal parts of the country. Being a transition period over the central region, rains during this period are accompanied with strong winds. We advise the general public to stay away from trees, electricity poles, and high billboards. Now let's have a look at the temperature projection. I am Akami Samarda.
And that's NTA Network News for tonight. Thank you very much indeed for spending your time with us. I'm Joseph Johnson. Remember to always connect with the NTA to stand against rape and rapists. Good night.